Let's dive into a wound so deep that it rules our whole life as women. A wound that rules our femininity. A wound that has rippled through generations of women. A wound that grips us, keeping us stuck in patterns that are not ours. A wound that almost all women struggle with. A wound that whispers, "You're not enough," that teaches us to silence our voice, to shrink, to strive for love we never truly received. It shows up in the way we speak to ourselves, the way we look at our bodies, in the way we overgive, in the way we stay in relationships where we're not held, and the way we abandon ourselves over and over again. This is the mother wound.
Oh, the mother wound. It's such a deep-seated, deep-rooted wound that rules so many women's lives without them even knowing it. And if you watched any of my previous videos, I have talked a lot about the father wound, and now I think it's time to go into the mother wound. Because the mother wound affects us also on so many different levels. And especially as women, the mother wound is deeply connected to the way we view femininity and our relationship to femininity. And also the mother wound is deeply connected to the way we show up in relationships. So where the father wound is kind of determining what kind of men we draw into our lives, the mother wound determines how we show up in the relationship. What are the patterns that we play out in the relationship dynamic? So if this is resonating with you, I highly encourage you to comment a free workbook down below, and I will send you a free workbook about the mother wound. So we had the father wound, which I think we covered a lot of, and now we will dive into the mother wound. So when we are little girls, our brain soaks up information and soaks up our environment like a sponge. That is why children learn so fast, right? Because we soak up everything. Our brain waves are in theta brain waves, so that's the imaginary state, so that's when we learn the best and the fastest. And the two most important people in our lives as a child are our father and our mother. And depending on how they show up towards us and how we perceive them, that is going to rule a lot of our lives. That's going to rule a lot about our relationships, a lot about the patterns that we play out. And so our mother is our first feminine role model. So she is the main person in our lives that shows us what femininity is and what it looks like and what it feels like. And since children are very, very, very sensitive to their surroundings and they pick up on behavior, they pick up on subconscious little hints, energies, everything, because they are really sensitive, we pick up on the patterns that our mother plays out in her life. So if you grew up with a mother who did not like her body, chances are that you don't like your body. And if your mother had a bad relationship with food, chances are you are having a bad relationship with food. And that is something that I actually have experienced. My mom did have not the best relationship to her body and also not to food, and I inherited that. And there's also something that I would like to tell you that is really fascinating to me, and that is that if we are in our mother's womb, her nervous system gets imprinted on to us. So if your mother's nervous system is really stressed out during pregnancy, or in general just not very regulated, like stressed out, maybe sadness, maybe all kinds of emotion, all of this is going to be imprinted on to you, and you will carry that on in your life. So many of these things that you're struggling with today might not even be yours, but although it's not ours, it's still in our bodies. So we have kind of taken on the task to release these things from our bodies, which actually makes us into cycle breakers, because we are breaking the chains, we are breaking the cycles of the trauma that has been passed on from woman to woman to woman in your lineage, and now it lives in you, and you have the chances, you have the tools, you have the knowledge to work with it and to release it from your body and to let go of all of this ancestral generational trauma. So to recap, our mother determines the relationship we have to our body, the relationship we have to food, and the relationship we have to the feminine. So if your mother, for example, was very much in her masculine, so if she always had to take all of the responsibility in raising her children, if she always had to take on maybe even the money making in the family, right? Like many families do have that, where The mother is completely responsible for everything in the household, which makes her very much in her masculine because she has no other choice to do. And so that is also what we learn. So again, it could be that if your mother was very much in her masculine, always doing, always trying to make ends meet, always stressed out, that's exactly what you're living out in your life. So maybe you're more in your masculine and you're more the moneymaker in your maybe now family or with your partner, or in general, or you feel more stressed out about stuff. You feel like the responsibility is always on you. You feel like you are always alone and you have to do everything by yourself. These are all things that we inherit from our mothers. And so another thing is that we inherit her patterns from relationships. So the way she interacted with your father or with her boyfriend or with whomever who was some kind of a partner to her, if that was the case, maybe she hadn't have a partner when you grew up, can also be the case. Then maybe it is this all being by yourself, doing everything by yourself, being alone, that can be imprudent to you. But if she had a partner, then what were the patterns in that relationship? Was she always people pleasing? Was she always putting herself last? Was she, or maybe the opposite, was she always putting herself first? Like, there are so many things how this can play out, right? And so based on how she interacted in her romantic relationships, that most likely is what we later on play out in the relationships that we're in. However, with these things, it's very interesting because it can also happen that we play out the opposite of what our mother did. So this can also happen. So when your mother put herself maybe first, maybe she was egocentrical, because that also exists. Yeah, not all women are only people pleasers. Like, there are also mothers who were more egocentric, who were more about themselves. And then maybe to counteract that, to cope with that, we went the opposite direction, and it made us people pleasers, and it made us putting ourselves last for other people. So trauma is a very intricate thing, and things can play out very differently. So it can be that you either take on exactly what your mother did, or it can be that you take on the opposite what your mother did as a form of counteracting. So the question now is, how is your relationship with your mother? So if this is resonating with you, I highly encourage you to comment free workbook down below, and the workbook will give you questions to journal about, to investigate the relationship with your mother. It will give you tips on how to start healing this wound so you can start connecting deeper to your femininity, to be more in your feminine and not in your masculine, or to balance both out, because it's also not about only being in the feminine, right? It's about being in balance, having the feminine energies and the masculine in balance. And so yeah, this workbook is gonna help you with that. So comment free workbook down below to get your free link. If you enjoyed this video, please support me so I can make more of these videos, and maybe give it a like, give it a comment. And if you're interested in watching more, you can choose some of these videos where I go deeper into feminine healing.